Swenja Surminski is the Managing Director of Climate and Sustainability for the company Marsh McLennan's. She's also a member of the UK Committee on Climate Change and Adaptation. Swenja, welcome. Can a figure for loss and damage as a result of these heat waves regarding things like health, nature and biodiversity and livelihood, business loss and infrastructure be estimated? Can we put a figure on the damage this causes?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm speaking to you from a very hot London room here, so I hope my connection still works. Well, first of all, it's important to say that this heat wave fits in with the projections of climate models. I mean, this is what we've been talking, and climate change makes heat waves more likely, more severe. And we've, of course, seen this here in the UK, elsewhere in Europe, but also around the globe, including in India earlier this year. Heat waves are deadly and bring devastation also to the natural environment, but estimating the economic cost is difficult because there are so many compounding issues: interruption of infrastructure, disruption of food supplies. Often there's water shortage in the context of heat waves. And you know, there have been studies on the impact of GDP, and it actually helps to look back at past events. And I just want to give you the example of Italy, where actually a heat wave in the early 2000s had a regional impact on GDP of causing losses of around 1% of GDP. And we expect this to go up. High temperatures also increase energy and especially the transport infrastructure. And this is having a big impact also on energy prices, as we currently see with, for example, nuclear power stations having to reduce capacity in France. So you can see how this is compounding a lot of, and that's where the losses and damages are occurring.
Let's talk about political urgency, because the Conservative Party leadership race is underway in the UK. The cost of living crisis, I think it would be fair to say, has dominated the debates over the last few days. I would gently suggest that climate hasn't really played a big role in these debates. Do you think enough emphasis is being put on the debate in politics, not just in the UK, but around the world?
Well, climate change is one of those topics where really political leadership is required. And I think heat waves like this underline why it is so important to take action now and not to consider it as a future issue, because that's what unfortunately often happens when we talk about climate change. We see it as a future issue, and often policymakers feel they have time to react. And I think this is a really important message that is also now increasingly coming through the business community, where businesses are actually holding politicians to account and say we need strong policies on climate mitigation because we are running out of time.
We do like to blame governments, though, don't we, wherever we're watching in the world. Let me ask you about the private sector's role in climate and how essential it is for the private sector to up its game.
Well, first of all, it's really important. This is a big issue and it needs action from both the public and the private sector. And it is very dramatic, but the good thing is there are quite a few solutions in terms of technology, in terms of different approaches to how we use energy and water. They exist, but they need to be invested in and rolled out. And I think this is where the private sector can play a huge role. And, you know, this plays across supply chains where a lot of sectors are now waking up, because you don't have to be directly impacted. You don't have, in terms of, you know, facing the heat on your office facilities, but throughout your supply chain, you can be impacted. And I see more and more companies taking this on board, and more companies also connecting this to their obligation to reduce emissions and to take this serious. And we see a lot of corporates committed to net zero. And I think that should send a signal also to our policymakers.
Swenja Surminski in London, thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.